Good day everyone. So this will be the part 2 presentation for the disaster risk reduction topic. So my name is Melinda Kunlo. So you're one of the professor for the NSTP CWTS. So, as we all know, so what is disaster reduction? So, disaster reduction is a systematic approach to identify or assessing and reducing the risk of reduction. So, our topic, so the objective of this presentation is to understand the disaster risk situation of the country and the trend and disaster risk resiliency and climate change adaptability. So when we say this disaster risk, so it is a potential or loss of life or the injury or to destroy like for example, mga kalamidad na nangyayari sa ating kapaligiran. So that is the disaster risk. So when we say resiliency, so as a Filipino, so we are resilient enough to face the situation, kung anumang mga sitwasyon ang magaganap sa ating bansa. May mga ginagawa tayong mga hakbang para mabigyan natin ng sagot kung ano man ang mga kalamidad na nangyayari sa ating bansa. So, when we say the resiliency, this will be the capacity to recover or quickly from difficulty. So, as a Filipino, so we all know nga na kahit anong mangyari, tayo ay nagtutulungan kung may mga kalamidad na nangyayari sa ating buhay. Okay. So, when we say the climate change, so ano ang climate change? So, when we say climate change, it is the issue of our time. So, under the climate change, we need to adapt what is happening in the world. So, adaptability is the quality of being adjust to new conditions. So, kung ano man ang mga nangyayari sa ating sa buong mundo, ito dapat ang ating tingnan at bigyan ng mga solusyon. So, this is the objective of the presentation. So, what is the outline of this presentation? So, mayroon tayong mga topic na dapat i-discuss. So, the first one is to understand the Philippine situation. So, as we go on with our topic, malalaman natin kung ano ang dapat nating gawin, kung ano ang mga kalamidad na nangyayari sa ating bansa or sa buong mundo. So, the first one is to understand the Philippine situation. Number 2, the Philippine Disaster Management System. What is Presidential Decree 1566 and Republic Act 10121, the disaster risk resiliency, climate change, adaptability, and the salient features of RA 10121. So, what is the Philippine situation today? So, for the Disaster World Risk Index Report for 2019, so as we can see there, the data, from being second in 2014, third in 2015 until 2018, the Philippines improved its ranking with riskiest country worldwide as a consequence of extreme weather events according to the later World Risk Index. Okay, so more than ever before, the public became aware that the effect of climate change and resulting weather extreme affect lives of people worldwide and will change then into a long term. So it is important for all of us to support those who are already suffering from the effect of climate change. So in the creeping of their livelihood to take effective precautions. Siguro makikita rin natin ngayon kung ano ang nangyayari sa ating mundo kahit na dito sa Pilipinas may mga bagay na dapat nating ayusin lalo na sa climate change. Philippines is an archipelago located at the southeastern part of Asia, exposed to both climatic and geological hazard. So it is situated in the Pacific Typhoon Belt and Pacific Ring of Fire with several fault lines crossing the country. earthquakes could have very devastating effect. So there are 220 volcanoes. So ang Pilipinas, kahit makita natin sa mapa or sa globo, makikita natin na ang Pilipinas talaga ay daraanan ng mga like for example typhoon. The Philippines is located along the typhoon belt on the North Pacific Basin, wherein 75% of typhoon originate, or there are 20 to 30 typhoon passing through the country, and 5 to 7 of which can be destructive. So for this year, so one of the typhoon or one of the strongest typhoon na dumating sa atin ay ang Ulysses, which is na maraming mga buong Luzon, almost sa Luzon area ang kanyang dinaraanan at malaki ang naging pinsalang nangyari sa Luzon, especially sa Bicol region, wherein marami or almost billion of pesos ang naging pinsala ng bagyong Ulysses. As a Filipino or as a student, maging maingat tayo at magiging handa kung ano man ang mga kalamidad na dumating sa ating buhay or sa ating kapaligiran. Ito ang ating bansa o ito ang Pilipinas, and then ito ang Pacific Ocean. So makikita dito na ang Pilipinas talaga ay malapit sa Pacific Ocean. That's why, so ang lahat ng mga bagyong dumaraan sa Pacific Ocean, so ang Pilipinas talaga ang kanyang dinadaanan. So makikita natin na malapit tayo sa Ring of Fire. So that's why, marami ang mga bulkan sa ating bansa. So kung meron tayong 220 volcanoes, 22 of them are active. So, dapat maging maingat tayo. So, tayo dito sa Capiz ay very lucky dahil wala tayong active volcano or walang volcano dito sa Panay Island. So, what are the provinces risk to typhoon? So, dito meron tayong 10 or 10. So, one of them is Albay, which is also the victim of Ulysses. And then number 2, Pampanga. So, as we all know, sa Pampanga, kahit kunting ulan, ang Pampanga ay lubog sa baha. Okay. And also the Ifugao. So, Ifugao is high risk maraming mga kabundukan. And also the Sorsogon, the Biliran, Rizal, Northern Samar is part of the Western Visayas or Eastern Visayas, which is malapit yan sa palaging dinadaraanan ng bagyo. Kahit anong bagyo, ang Northern Samar is always there sa lista ng may signal. And also the Cavite, Masbate, malapit tayo sa Masbate, pero kumbaga lihis minsan yung bagyo. And the number 10 is Laguna. Next is the Philippine worst typhoon. So ito ang mga typhoon or mga bagyong dumaan sa Pilipinas. So number 1 rank is Haipong. So wherein it is in 1881. 20,000 people died. So ito lang ang nakita. Hindi pa nakita yung mga missing, hindi dito na nailista. Or ito lang ang nakitang aktual na namatay. So ang number 2 is Yolanda, wherein we are also the victim of Yolanda. So ako ay isa ring biktima ng Yolanda na yung bubong namin ay nakuha ng Yolanda. So number 3 rank is Yuring, which is in 1991, 5,101 people died, and rank number 4 is Pablo, which is in 2012, 1,901 people died. Next is the provinces risk to earthquake. So kanina is bagyo, ngayon naman ay lindol. So earthquake. So, number 1 list is the Surigao del Sur, La Union, Benguet, Pangasinan, Pampanga, Tarlac, Ifugao, Davao Oriental, Nueva Vizcaya, and Nueva Ecija. So, nakikita natin dito sa listahan ng risk of earthquake na wala yung Western Visayas. So, we are again lucky or na tayo ay nakatira sa hindi risky to earthquakes. What are the top 8 disastrous earthquake in the Philippines? So, number 1 rank is in 1976, the Moro Gulf earthquake and tsunami killing 8,000 people. Number 2 is 1645, 1990. So, ito ay naabutan ko na yung Luzon earthquake na nangyari sa Baguio. Na marami ring ang namatay dahil sa earthquake na ito. In 1899, we're in also the Luzon earthquake. In 1968, the Kasiguran Quezon earthquake. And 2012, the Visayas earthquake wherein in Dumaguete and Bohol and Cebu area, wherein marami rin ang namatay. In 1994, Mindoro earthquake and 2002 Mindanao earthquake. So what is the earthquake-proof province in the Philippines? So the province of Palawan. So allegedly the safest part in the Philippines. Palawan is being considered as the safest part in the Philippines because it has no active volcanoes, neither active fault lines nor deep trenches. So malayo, wala silang active volcano, wala rin silang active fault. Okay, so kung gusto ninyong pumunta ng Palawan, pwede kayong pumunta doon dahil safe doon. Pero syempre, iba rin kung nandito tayo sa ating sariling lugar. So, what is the biggest fault line in the Philippines? So, fault line. Pag sinabi nating fault line, so as we can see here, nakikita ninyo yung may pulang linya, yan ang fault line na sinasabi natin. So, ang Manila, nagpe-prepare sila for the big one. So, kahit na ang Manila yung target ng the big one, kailangan din nating mag-ingat. Okay. So, the 1,200 kilometer long Philippine Fault Zone or the PFZ is the major tectonic feature that transects the whole Philippine archipelago from northwestern Luzon to southeastern Mindanao. So from here going to Mindanao area. So nakikita natin yung pulang linya. So that is the fault line. So what is the deadliest tsunami in the Philippines? Okay, so 1976, the tsunami were in August 16, 1976, Moro Gulf, Mindanao. So 8.0 magnitude wave, height of 9 meters. So mataas. So 4,381 people died. So in 1994, November 15, 1994, Mindoro Island. So, 7.1 magnitude, wave height of 7.3 meters. So, November 15, 1994, Mindoro Island, 38 people died. So, what are the areas vulnerable to tsunami? Ano ang mga area? So, we're here. The number 1 is the Manila Trench, okay, sa ibabaw na parte. The Negros Trench, which is in the Visayas area. The Sulu Trench, which is in the eastern part of Visayas. Cotabato Trench, where in the Mindanao area. Okay, the Philippine Trench. So, ito ang mga sa gilid. So, malapit sa Pacific Ocean. And number 6 is the East Luzon through. The risk to earthquake-induced landslide. So, risk to earthquake. So, again, for Ifugao, Lanao del Sur, Sarangani, Benguet, Mountain Province, Bukidnon, Aurora, Davao del Sur, Davao Oriental, and Rizal. Dahil ang kanilang lugar ay matataas or bulubundukin. So, landslide ang nangyayari. So, sa ngayong taon, maraming landslide din ang nangyayari sa Pilipinas. What is the deadliest landslide in the Philippines? Here are the list. So, number 1 is the 1999 Cherry Hill landslide on August 3, 1999. So, wherein Antipolo City and 60 people died. Number 2 is the 2003 Panawan Freeze Flow, December 19, 2003 in southern Leyte, wherein 154 people died. The worst landslide in the Philippines. In February 17, 2006, a massive rock slide debris avalanche occurred in province of southern Leyte, causing widespread damage and loss of life. So, ito ang nangyari na pinaka-worst na landslide sa Pilipinas. Okay, so what is the Philippine Disaster Management System? So, Presidential Decree 1566 has been the basic law that guides the disaster management program, project and strategies implementation in the country. However, it has been observed from past experiences that the law creates more leaning and gives more emphasis on the response phase. So, ito ay Presidential Decree 1566. Ang kanyang hangarin lamang ay to response. Kumbaga, pag may bagyo, may response lang. Walang preparation na magaganap. So, the Office of the Civil Defense or the OCD initiated a shift on disaster management approaches and strategies from reactive to proactive, a paradigm shift from the prevalent culture of reaction to a culture of prevention. So, because of the Presidential Decree 1566 na ang kanyang hangarin ay to response lang, so ito ay idinimolish at pinalit ang Republic Act 10121. So, according to the Republic Act 10121, known as the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010, an act that provides for development of policies and plans and the implementation of actions and measures pertaining to all aspects of disaster risk reduction, management, and recovery, including the good governance, risk assessment, early warning, knowledge building and awareness, raising, reducing underlying risk factors, and preparedness for effective response and early recovery. So for this act, so makikita natin, so because of the new technology, the government has the agency na makapagbigay ng kaalaman sa mga tao kung paano natin bigyan ng kaalaman ang mga tao tungkol sa mga mangyayaring mga kalamidad sa ating bansa. So, the changing trends in disaster risk reduction. So, from reactive action to proactive action. Okay. So, before, if it is reactive response, only preparedness. Prepare lang. Pero ngayon, after now, proactive response, we have preparedness, prevention, so mitigation, response, the rehabilitation, and then the recovery. So here, the resiliency and adaptability in the changing world. How can we survive? Okay, paano tayo makasurvive? So, disaster risk, resiliency, and the climate change and adaptability. So, the problem is, okay, in disaster risk, resiliency, the problem is injured person during an earthquake. So, ang solusyon natin dyan, para walang mga injuring mangyayari, we will have to conduct an earthquake drill. So, sa mga sa mga paaralan, hindi lamang sa mga paaralan, kundi sa lahat ng mga ahensya sa gobyerno. Ito ay binibigyan diin na dapat malalaman ng mga tao kung paano i-conduct ang earthquake drill. Okay, so dapat malalaman natin yan ang magiging solusyon para walang mga magiging pinsala or walang mga injury na mga tao dahil alam nila kung paano isagawa ang earthquake drill. So dito sa Capiz State University, as a freshman student, so kayo na mga CWTs, dapat alam ninyo kung paano i-conduct ang earthquake drill. So mayroong ginawang earthquake drill na video na ipinasa sa inyo. So dapat alamin niyo kung ano ang tamang gawin para pag dumating ang sakuna, mayroon kayong gawin para magiging safe kayo. The next problem is fire conflagration. So what is the solution? So we need also to conduct a fire drill. So isa yan sa mga dapat gawin para na ma-aware tayo kung ano. So alam natin kung paano gawin ang fire drill. The next problem is loss of lives and properties. So anong magiging solusyon? Conduct a typhoon evacuation drill. So before, ang kinakonduct natin ay only the earthquake drill. Ngayon, kahit na evacuation drill ay dapat din natin gawin para malaman natin kung halimbawa mayroong mga bahang nangyayari sa ating lugar. Marunong na tayo kung saan dapat tayo pumunta. Next problem is loss of life. So paano natin masolusyonan? Conduct first aid training. So as a student, so dapat alam natin, so kung halimbawa sa inyong lugar o sa inyong barangay mayroong mga training kung paano i-conduct kung about sa disaster risk, so dapat kayo ay mag-participate para alam niyo kung paano i-conduct ang first aid training. So next, the climate change adaptation. Paano natin i-adapt ang climate change? The problem is flooded house during a typhoon. So, paano natin masolusyonan? So, pwede natin gawin na ang ating bahay ay magiging floating house during a flood. Halimbawa, lalo na sa area ng panitan or sa mababang lugar, so kailangan natin gawin na ang bahay natin ay magiging floating house pagdating ng flood or ng baha. Okay. Next is cutting the trees for development. What is the solution? So, i-reconsider natin na huwag nating putulin ang puno. Like for example, in this picture, so ginawa niyang design sa kanyang bahay ang puno ng kahoy. So, pag pumunta kayo dito sa Capiz State University, sa harapan nandoon ang DOST na building. So, makikita nyo dyan na ang isang puno ay hindi pinutol, kundi ginawang design ng DOST. So, inadapt nila for the tree development. So, pag pumunta kayo sa Rojas City, sa school, makikita nyo dyan sa DOST. Next problem is the single-use plastic bag. So, what is the solution? Use a cloth bag. So, pag pumunta kayo sa mga palengke, huwag na kayo gumamit ng mga plastic. Kung anong meron sa inyong bahay, you need to do it or i-recycle ninyo, yun ang gamitin nyo para makaiwas tayo sa mga plastic. So, ang plastic, one of the problem today. Dahil pag mayroong plastic, so, pag magbaha, yung mga drainage, puno na ng plastic. So, kung ikaw isang estudyante, kung ikaw ay ginawa mo na nagamit ka ng cloth bag, so, maiwasan or minus 1 na ang kumalat ng plastic sa daan. So, pag kayo na ilan kayo, 1,000, pag 1,000 na alam niyo pala yung solusyon, so, almost 1,000 people ang makaiwas na maggamit ng plastic. So it means to say, may ginawa kayong solusyon sa paggamit ng plastic bag. Okay. Next. single-use plastic straw. So ngayon, may mga establishment or may mga restaurant na hindi na gumagamit ng mga plastic straws. So, yung ginagamit nila, bamboo straws or paper straws. Like for example, Jollibee today, hindi na gumagamit ng mga plastic. So, ginagamit na lang nila mga paper cups para makaiwas sa problema hinggil sa climate change. I am a proud NSTP member. I want to help. How can I help? So, paano kayo makatulong? Kahit sa iyong sarili, mayroon ka dapat gawin. Kahit lang sa bahay ninyo, makakatulong ka kung paano mo ma-change ang climate change nga maging positive tayo sa magiging future natin. So, as a student, dapat marunong kang gumawa ng sariling hakbang. So, what is the salient features of RA 10121? Participation, accreditation, mobilization, protection, and development of disaster volunteer. Kahit sa inyong barangay ngayong lockdown, may magagawa kayo para makatulong kayo sa ating gobyerno. So, inviting volunteers, the youth sector to participate in the DRR Council. Okay. So, barangay risk reduction. So, paano kayo makakatulong? So, dapat isa kayo sa mga member kung saan ang gusto ninyong lugar, saan gusto niyo na team. Like for example, evacuation team. So, gusto mong mag-training how to evacuate person. Transportation team. So, kung marunong kang mag-drive, so pwede kang mag-volunteer. Communication and warning team. So, like for example, magaling kang communicate sa tao. First aid. So, kung ikaw gusto mo maging isang first aider, so pwede ka dito. Rescue and extrication team, the safety and security team, and then the fire and hazmat team. As a student, kahit sa inyong barangay, may magagawa kayo para makatulong sa inyong mga kapwa kabarangay. So, kailangan nating tumulong. Hindi lang pera ang kailangan na itulong sa tao, kundi pati ang ating sarili pwedeng gawin natin yung makakaya natin, kung ano ang ating mga talent. Ibigay natin to help other people. So, we cannot stop the natural disaster, but we can arm ourselves with knowledge. So, kung ano ang mga nalalaman natin, i-share natin sa mga tao or kahit sa inyong pamilya. Try to share what is your knowledge. Kung ano ang mga knowledge ninyo, yung kaalaman ninyo, share ninyo, participate sa barangay para magiging magiging active at makatulong kayo sa inyong kapwa. So, we need to prepare, plan, and practice. So, hindi pwede na plan lang at prepare, walang practice. So, dapat, ang tatlo, ito ay dapat ninyong gawin. So, what are the emergency survival kits? So, sa inyong bahay, kailangan ninyong mag-prepare kahit na yung flashlight lang, yung first aid, yung mga dilata na dapat ninyong ilagay sa isang lugar, sa isang bag, para kung ano man ang mga kalamidad na mangyari, hindi natin alam kung kailan dumating yung earthquake. Yung typhoon, okay lang dahil marinig natin sa radyo or sa television na may darating na bagyo. Pero pag earthquake yung dumating, hindi natin alam kung kailan yon. So, dapat always, all the time, you are prepared. You need to action to survive. Thank you.